The timeline. 1821. The merger of the Hudson's Bay Company and its biggest rival, the Northwest Company, Montreal, creates different areas of activity across the continent, from the Pacific Northwest region, Oregon and Washington states, and British Columbia, to the far north present-day Alaska, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. 1826. John Franklin is the first British explorer to reach the Yukon. His crew includes several French Canadians. 1874. French Canadians arrive in the territory with the fur trade. The first trading post in the region that will become the Klondike is founded by François-Xavier Mercier and his partners. 1896. Gold is discovered. August 16. A large quantity of gold is discovered on the traditional territory of the Trondack-Huetchen First Nation. Dawson is founded by Joseph Ladue, a Franco-American. This event is commemorated annually with celebrations and a statutory holiday. The Klondike Gold Rush. The discovery of gold in 1896 triggered a short but intense rush. Between 1897 and 1899, more than 100,000 people undertook the journey to the Yukon gold fields. The journey was so hard that only 40,000 people, including 10,000 French Canadians, reached Dawson. This massive influx of white men and women turned the way of life of the region's indigenous peoples upside down. 1898, the Yukon Territory is established, with Dawson as its capital. Yukon comes from the Gwich'in word, Yukonna, meaning big river and refers to the Yukon River. 1903. The town of Mayo is founded by the Francophone Joseph Eugene Binet. Located on the traditional territory of the Nez-Cho-Nai-Kay Dun, it becomes the largest center on the highway. 1942. The Alaska Highway is built, connecting Dawson Creek in British Columbia with Fairbanks in Alaska. This strategic road was built in the record time of 8 months by the U.S. Army to link Alaska to the rest of the continent during the Second World War. 1953, as the most populous city and the focal point of the territory's commercial activities, Whitehorse becomes the new capital of the Yukon. 1967, the Yukon flag, featuring a Malamute, a breed of dog similar to a husky, is introduced. The Yukon flag is the result of a territory-wide competition organized by the Whitehorse branch of the Royal Canadian Legion to celebrate Canada's centennial in 1967. 1969, the Official Languages Act is passed, expanding federal services and the language obligations of the federal government. This encourages French Canadians to settle in Whitehorse. 1982, the Association Franco-Yukonnaise is established and incorporated as the official voice and leader in the development of the Yukon French-speaking community. 1983, the Francophone newspaper L'Aurore Boreale is founded. It reports on major news items in the Yukon, as well as news and projects in the Yukon Francophone community. 1984, the École Émilie Tremblay is established as the Yukon's first French language school. It bears the name of the first Francophone woman who made the long journey from Quebec to Dawson, Yukon, in 1894. 1985, the first episode of the show Rencontre, a Francophone radio show in the Yukon hosted by volunteers, is broadcast on CBC North. 1986, the Yukon Francophone flag is created. The blue represents the Francophone community and the Yukon sky. The golden color represents the 1898 gold rush and symbolizes the progression of Yukon Francophones, enriching the territory at the cultural, economic, and social levels. And the white represents the snow that covers the Yukon landscape for a large part of the year. 1988. The Yukon Languages Act is passed, recognizing the Statute of French and the importance of Aboriginal languages. The French Services Bureau of the Government of Yukon is established. 1989. The Garderie du Petit Cheval Blanc daycare is established. Its quality services ensure the longevity of the French language and culture. When it opened, it only had 7 children. Today, it welcomes more than 100 families, especially through its daycare programs, before and after school daycare services and day camps. 1995. The not-for-profit organization Les Essentiels is established. It represents the interests of Yukon Francophone women. 1995. The Espoir Jeunesse Youth Committee is established. This committee organizes activities for Yukon Francophones aged 14 to 25. The name was changed to Jeunesse franco-yukonnaise (JEFI) Committee in 2012. 1996. The Commission Scolaire Francophone du Yukon is established. It manages French first language educational programs in the entire territory. 1998. The Comité Francophone Catholique Saint-Eugène de Mazenod is established. This committee provides a pastoral service in French throughout the Whitehorse Diocese in the Yukon and part of British Columbia. 1999. Free access to French CBC television becomes available in Whitehorse. 2000. The friendship relationship between Whitehorse and Lansieu is established. The cities of Whitehorse in the Yukon and Lansieu in France have maintained a special bond as sister cities. Connected by the admiration held by Robert W. Service for these two regions, they honor his memory through their rich and precious friendship. The Klondike poet established his residence in both these cities and drew his inspiration from them. 2003. The Francophone Community Health Network, Partenariat Communautaire en Santé, is established. The network works with its partners to improve health and well-being within the Yukon Francophone community. 2005. The Fondation Boréale is established, a charitable organization that contributes to the development and vitality of the Yukon Francophone community. It raises money and distributes it in the priority areas it has identified. 2006. The French Language Services Directorate, FLSD, is established and replaces the French Language Bureau. 2007. May 15 is proclaimed as Yukon Francophonie Day to highlight the historical contribution of Francophones for over 150 years in the Yukon. 2011. The Yukon Francophone Leaders Forum is established. This forum is comprised of executive directors and presidents of organizations to coordinate efforts in implementing concerted and strategic actions that have positive impacts for Yukon organizations and Francophones. The name of the forum was changed to the Yukon Francophone Governance Forum in 2024. 2018. Angelique Bernard is sworn in as Commissioner of Yukon. She is the first Francophone to assume this role in the territory. 2019. Whitehorse is selected as a welcoming Francophone community as part of the Government of Canada's Action Plan for Official Languages. Whitehorse is one of 14 communities across Canada that will receive funding so they can create programs and activities to help French-speaking newcomers feel welcomed and integrated into Francophone minority communities. 2020, full school management of French first language education within the territory of the CSFY is achieved. 2021, the Secondary School Community Center Paul-Émile Mercier, CSSC Mercier, is opened. 2021, the Société d'Histoire Francophone du Yukon is established. The Society's mandate is to acquire, conserve, study, interpret, and showcase Yukon Francophone history and heritage to improve community access to it, and its conservation for future generations. 2024, the Yukon Francophone Governance Forum signs the Declaration on Reconciliation with Yukon First Nations. The members commit to advancing reconciliation in the territory in collaboration with First Nations. The signing members are Association franco-yukonnaise, Commission scolaire francophone du Yukon, Aurore boréale, Les essentiels, Partenariat communautaire en santé, and Société d'Histoire francophone du Yukon.